Hello. So this is a graph of a function fx, and we want to find the limits at different points. So let's start with x is equal to -8. So we see that as we approach x is equal to -8 from left, the graph is not approaching a single value, but it is oscillating. So in order for limit to exist, the function must approach a single value. So because the graph to the left of x minus 8 is not approaching a single value of left-hand limit, it will not exist. So limit x tends to -8. Negative means the uh, x less than -8, or we can say left-hand limit of fx does not exist. Because we approach x -8 from left, and the graph is not approaching a single value, but it is oscillating. Okay, and we already see that f of -8 is -1. Okay, this value. Now, as we approach -8 from right hand side, we see that it is approaching a value of -1. As we approach from right hand side, we see that it is approaching a value of -1. And because left hand limit is not equal to right hand limit, so we can say that limit x tends to -8 of fx does not exist. Okay. Now we'll take another point, that is -4. We'll take x as -4. So f of -4 would be, we see it is a closed dot. So closed dot means it is a value of the function there. So this is 3. Here we can see it is 3. So f of -4 is 3. Now limit x tends to -4, negative. That means we are approaching -4 from left hand side. Okay, so we see here that it is approaching a value of 3. So limit x tends to -4, negative of the function is 3, means the left hand limit is 3. And then we see limit x tends to -4 plus, that means right hand side of -4. So we see in this function that right hand side of -4, it is approaching a value of -2. So right hand side limit is -2. So in this we saw that function is approaching a value of 3 at negative. When x is -4, function is approaching a value of 3 from left, and when x function is, when x is -4, function is approaching a value of -2 from right. So from left, it is approaching a value of 3, and from right, it is approaching a value of -2. So left hand limit is not equal to right hand limit, and so limit at -4 of fx does not exist. And the function value of it is value of the function at -4 is 3. Closed dot means the value of the function at that point. And when there is empty circle, it means the value of the function is not that value, like it is not negative to here. So we see that limits care about what the function is doing around the point. It doesn't care about what the function is doing at the point. So closed dot means the value of the function is also that, and empty dot means value of function at that point is not that value. Okay. So third point, we take it as like for -1, when x is equal to -1, the value at -1 is 4. This is an empty dot. This is a closed dot. So f of -1 is 4, and limit x tends to -1, negative. It means when x is -1, function is approaching a value of 3. So left hand limit is 3 because from left side function is approaching a value of 3 when x is -1. Now limit x tends to -1 positive f of x. So when we see that which value function is approaching from right hand side. So from right hand side also it is approaching value of 3. So at when x is -1, function is approaching a value of 3 from left hand side and right hand side, whereas the value of the function at -1 is 4. So value of function at -1 is 4, but from left hand side it is approaching value of 3, and right hand side it is approaching value of 3. So therefore left hand limit is equal to right hand limit, and limit, and when both are equal then limit exists. So when x tends to -1, fx is equal to 3. So in limits, we don't care the value of the function at that point. We care what is happening around the point. Now let us find the value and let us see what's happening around x is equal to 2. So we see that here it is a closed dot. It means f of 2 is equal to -1. Value of the function at 2 is -1. Now let us see left hand and right hand behaviors. So x tends to 2, negative f of x when it is approaching 2 from the left hand side. When the function is approaching 2 from left hand side, its value is -1. Whereas when the function is approaching 2 from right hand side, the value of the function is 3. So we can say that left hand side and right hand side limits are not equal in this case, and value of function at 2 is -1. So limit x tends to 2 of function fx does not exist. Now when x is equal to 4, let us study what is happening around x is equal to 4. We see that f of 4 is equal to -1. Value of the function at 4 is -1. And we'll see what happens when function is approaching x is equal to 4 from left hand side. It is 3, we can see here. And when it is approaching from right hand side, when x is equal to 4, function value of the function approaching from right hand side, it is approaching value of 3. Value of function at 4, x is equal to 4 is -1, but value the value of the limit or but function is approaching value of 3 from left hand side and right hand side. So we see that limit at x tends to 4, f of x is approaching value of 3. Now let us see what is happening at x is equal to 6. So f of 6 is -2. Value of the function at 6 is -2, and limit x tends to 6 negative means when the function is approaching 6, x is equal to 6, the graph is approaching value of -2. And let us see what is happening around when function is approaching 6 from right hand side. So when function is approaching 6 from right hand side, its value is -2. We can see here. And value of the function is also -2. So here value of the function as well as limit at 6 is same. Limit x tends to 6 of fx is -2. So we'll see two other types which could not be included in this graph. So suppose the graph is like this. This is -1, -2, and -3. Okay. This is 2. This is 3. Okay. So here we can see limit at x tends to -3. Negative of this function is positive infinity. It is approaching a value of infinity to the left side of -3. Sorry, this is positive infinity. It means that this is x tends to -3 of f of x is infinite. Okay. Whereas if we see at what is happening at +3, so we see that limit x tends to -3, negative side, sorry, +3. So we can see it is approaching a value of negative infinity. Okay. Whereas if we see from right hand side, it is approaching value of infinity. So here at 3, we can say that limit doesn't exist. So for -3, we saw that left hand side of -3 and right hand side of -3 function is approaching a value of infinity. Whereas at 3, the left hand side is approaching value of negative infinity and right hand side is approaching value of positive infinity, and so at 3 the limit does not exist. And we see different type of discontinuities. So here at -3 and +3, we see, so at -3 and 3, we see that they are the essential discontinuities because they occur at vertical asymptotes. So these are known as essential discontinuities. And at -1, here at -1, this point at -1, when there is an empty dot, and +4. So at -1 and +4, we see that this is a point of discontinuity. Where there is an empty hole here. Okay. And at x is equal to -4 and +2, we can see this is known as a jump discontinuity. That occurs when a curve breaks at the point and starts somewhere else. So, thank you for joining the class. Please text me if you have any difficulty. Thanks.